Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Craig!
And I would record 50 podcast episodes, and I would record 50 podcast episodes more, just to be the man to record 100 podcast episodes with Jeff Newser.
Dude, that touches my heart. I am absolutely... it's a big day.
Yeah, welcome to Podcast versus Everyone, episode 100.
100!
I'm Craig Powers. With me, as I just said, is Jeff Newser. Yeah, man, like, I gotta say, when we started this, I wasn't sure we would make it this far, and because I've seen a lot of podcasts that do not make it this far.
Yeah. They all, so many of them just sort of peter out at some point, right?
Well, and yeah, we would have hit it, a month ago or more if not for, nothing to talk about in the summer, but... or just not feeling like it. But yeah, so here we are. Number 100. We did it. This is the last episode. We're done after this. That's what we wanted to do. I hope you guys all liked it. This is actually all we're going to do. It's 90 seconds telling you it's episode 100. And then we're gone. Like, I'm done. I'm done podcasting. I don't know about you, Jeff, but...
Retiring on top. Yep. That's what we're doing.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.
Oh, yeah. Go Cougs.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. All right. Just
kidding. Just joking.
We'll probably do at least one more after this. And we'll do this full episode because we do have football games to talk about. I was really hoping that we'd have like a super celebratory episode 100. And, man, it was really looking like that could be a possibility for a while.
For a little while.
But then the onslaught came, and... that was not going to happen anymore. So WSU coming off now 1-1 after losing to number 11 Oregon 43-29 on Saturday night. What are your thoughts, Jeff? Initial thoughts?
So my Monday after column dropped today, so I don't want to repeat too much of that, but I'm not as wrapped up in the... Yeah, I know. Well, there are only so many original thoughts in my brain, and most of them get out in the, 2,500 words or so that I put into my column. So, but I'm not as wrapped up in the what ifs. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm not as wrapped up in the what ifs as I think a lot of people were after that game. I think a lot of people focused on the quote unquote missed opportunities after the turnovers. The only one that really, really got me was that damn play at the end of the first half. Like that was the only one that I really look at and go, God, that just changed everything. Because, they had the ball at their own 40 with 18 seconds to go. And, of course, having it at their own 40 was its own little, shitty circumstance to begin with, because really that ball just should have been booted out of the end zone and shouldn't have been dorking around with it in the first place. So there's that, but and maybe they tried. I mean, maybe there was some wind blowing that direction I don't know about. So at any rate, Oregon got probably 15 more yards of field position there than they should have, which made the pass, more probable. I mean, imagine if there's not 15 more yards of field position. Now all of a sudden he catches that ball and he's down on the 15 instead of the 2, right?
Right.
So. Anyway, so, that play, you just look at it and you go, okay, so the probability of getting a touchdown with 18 seconds to go with 60 yards to cover is extremely low, almost independent of how poor any given defense is.
Right.
And WC's defense is incredibly poor, but that kind of, really just by playing the right coverage, you should be able to prevent a touchdown in 18 seconds. And... of course, they didn't. Like, somebody was fouled up on a coverage. I don't know if it was Hicks. A lot of people blamed Hicks, and I've no idea if it was his fault. It may have been Hector's fault. He was the safety over there, so I have no idea. What I do know is it looked like they were playing two different coverages.
Mm-hmm.
Dude runs right past Hicks, And then the other part too is that Shuck had about 5 seconds to make that throw too.
Yeah.
So like it was just a total breakdown of everything. And if you subtract that touchdown, and that's again, what ifs are like, but like that's one thing. You go, okay, so the probability of getting a touchdown is so low that you can like sort of almost in a good faith way say, what if that touchdown hadn't happened, right? Because it shouldn't have happened. So you go, okay, if that happens, then you go through the whole second half and you're like within a touchdown pretty much the whole way, right? Like it takes Oregon until the fourth quarter to take a lead. You're never behind by more than a touchdown. You score your touchdown, it's a tie game. I mean, obviously you never exactly know how things are going to play out, but if everything else is equal, you're kind of touch and go, and it's neck and neck all the way up until the end. And maybe this all feels a little different. So I don't know. That's kind of the bummer part about it with a play like that. You just you can't give a team as good as Oregon. You just can't give them a touchdown and expect that you're going to be able to make that up, especially when they gave you the gift of 3 stops in a row with turnovers that were right into your hands. So
yeah, and it was actually 4 stops in a row if you count the punt that led to the field goal on the previous drive. Well, it didn't really lead to it. That was the frustrating part. The preceding drive was, even though it only ended in a field goal, was a great drive. They got the ball on the 10 and drove all the way down deep into Oregon territory, ended up kicking a field goal, but they took 6 minutes off that clock, drained it all the way down to 18 seconds. You're like, okay.
It was like the perfect drive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the 4 more points would have been great, but like, man, you're like, okay, like, that's a great scenario when you're trying to protect a lead. You extend the lead and you take away any opportunity, but apparently there was just enough opportunity. I will say, I don't think Verdell was in.
I don't think so either.
And that's just one of those call on the field. You can't reverse it. We don't have as many cameras type of thing. But and I really would, if they would have called him correctly down, then suddenly Cristobal has a difficult decision.
Right.
Like, I'm going to go for it, which I think he probably would have went for it, given that they were down, 2 scores. But maybe he tends, like, he's not always aggressive. Like, he does some conservative things. So he might have just kicked the field goal and say, hey, we didn't expect points out of this. Let's just get some points. So, who knows how that changes the dynamic. I think one other missed opportunity that I think people rightly obsess on is the second turnover, the Hector interception. That's the one time that WSU got the ball in plus territory, and with all these turnovers. That's the one time they took over in Oregon territory. So they were on the 40, and given that they had just 6-play 77-yard, 4-play 53-yard touchdown drives, you're like,
touchdown.
All right. But
yeah, we're
they
cruising.
Go 3 and out in a heartbeat.
-2.
Yeah, minus 2 yards. And they punt, and you're just like, oh, man, like, you really could have put the throat on there. Even a field goal would have been huge there. But, like, because that's another one where, like, really, like, if you're thinking about probabilities, they really only need to get like 5 to 10 yards to be in Maz's range to kick a field goal.
Yep, that's true.
And so, I mean, maybe 10 given the weather. Like, so, because he hit a 47-yarder later in the game. So, like, he maybe they get 10, 12 yards. They get 1 first down, and they can kick a field goal. And that's all they really need to do. But they couldn't even do that. And so that one, like, you felt uneasy after they got no points there. But of course, then they went and, got another fumble, drove down and got a field goal. I will say, I see this thing where people say the defense gives the offense turnovers, and there was good field position. And truthfully, it was 2 out of 3 times they basically cashed in what you would expect on that field position. They got, they started at the 47 and they got a touchdown, and they started at the 44 and they got a field goal. It's that one interception where they start on the plus 40 and they get a 3 and out. And so the other ones, especially given the defense that they were playing, like, to be able to drive the ball, and we talked about that in the first game with Stanford, where the yardage was so close and it was so like, why did they lose by so much? Because Stanford missed 4 field goals because they repeatedly were stunted in the end in the red zone. Well, I would say that WSU overall did better than Stanford did in the red zone.
They did.
They did better offensively. I think they.
I mean, they had 3 red zone touchdowns, didn't they?
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so that's, and man, it sucks because I think I've seen a little bit more people harping on the offense as the negative, and
oh my God,
there's a couple.
Don't even get me started on that.
Maybe you can say there's a couple times they could have done more, but if you look at the defense and starting with that drive, that 15-second drive you're talking about, it went touchdown, missed field goal, touchdown, half, end of game.
End of game. Yep.
That's it.
That was it.
Oregon did not go 3 and out the whole game. They had 2 turnovers within 3 plays. So if you want to call those 3 and out, but that's not technically a 3 and out. But they didn't have, they had, except for the second drive, all of their drives, they picked up at least a first down. They just moved the ball. I guess that's why, maybe you're frustrated with the offense. Okay, those were only opportunities. You really have to score. But at the same time, there's no difference between if you're the offense and getting the ball on a turnover and getting the ball on a punt.
Right.
There's roughly maybe 20 to 30 seconds of expectation before you start the drive.
Right.
That you're getting the ball back. That's it. But if they had stopped Oregon on their own 10 and they punted and got the ball on the 44, I don't think people will be screaming about missed opportunities as much if they get a field goal on that drive. It's just because their turnovers, there's just this mental thing where it's Oregon fucked up.
Right.
We have to capitalize.
We have to capitalize.
And I think the broadcast fed into that, and truthfully, you're feeling it. I'm feeling that.
You want it. You're greedy. We're greedy.
It feels like we're dominating. We should be up by more. But if you look at it, Oregon on the third fumble, they had driven the ball 48 yards in 3 plays. They were 50 yards in 3 plays.
Right.
They weren't stopping Oregon.
Right.
They were just getting kind of fortunate, recovering fumbles they were making plays, of course. Hector's interception was a nice play. You got to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
That
nice strip
throw.
by Crowder on one of them.
A strip Crowder. But I'll credit to Hector for being around the ball, but recovering a fumble is not necessarily always 100% skill.
It's not a skill.
I think the ability to I really liked how he scooped the second one he recovered, because I like that mentality. Let's go get it, but it's just there were signs that they were going to have hard time stopping Oregon even while they were getting the turnovers. I think that's what led to some of the fear as you're watching the first half unfold. And that was, I don't know, I was super down and pissed at halftime, even though WSU, if you would have told me before the game, WSU is going to be up 19-14 at half, you're going to be like, cool.
Yeah.
But you're sitting there.
That's why I hate those scenarios, because it's impossible to know exactly what the situation is, so that you can figure out, okay, exactly how should I be feeling about this, right?
Yeah, but now that Oregon got the ball back with 18 seconds left and scored a touchdown, now you're pissed.
Super pissed.
And then what we saw, the last 4 drives. So the first drive of the second half for Oregon was much like it was much like their first drive of the game, where they were just kind of chunked little bit, no chunks. And then they got stopped. They missed a field goal. You kind of felt a little bit better.
Yeah, you were okay, all right. Okay. We've kind of, staunched the bleeding a little bit. It took them 13 plays to go 56 yards.
Yeah, you're happy with that all day long.
And you're going okay.
You're this has got to stop at some point.
Yeah, you're they're not picking off chunk plays. You feel okay about those sorts of drives.
6 minutes came off the clock and the score didn't change. You're all right, that's good.
Yeah, you're all right, I can do that.
But then, of course, WSU goes. That was so they go 3 and out after that. Not 3 and out, but they get a first down, and then
don't get a first down after that.
Yeah. So was that the one? Or maybe it was the next drive with the potential targeting. But then after that, Oregon's offense, they could not.
Yeah,
stop
they figured something out there.
The last 4 touchdown drives: 5 for 68, 7 for 80, 3 for 75, and 6 for 75.
I mean, the third quarter in yards was 191 to 30.
Yeah.
So
the third quarter the turd quarter.
The turd quarter returns.
There's another moment, if they would have called that first targeting on Bell, that would have been 15 yards. WSU would have had the ball on the 40. I think they were down 22-19 at that point.
Yep. Which that no call was just total bullshit.
I don't get the point of the rule. It feels like, from watching college football games all the past couple weeks, it just feels like the enforcement of targeting is so inconsistent.
Yeah.
And
nobody knows what
even
it
just
is.
Pac-12 games, it's so inconsistent. Okay, the announcers, they were saying he didn't mean to do it, whatever. It's like intent is he hit a defenseless receiver in the head with his helmet, with
the crown of his helmet. It wasn't face. At first, they were saying it was face mask. Face mask,
but it wasn't. Yeah,
it wasn't. It wasn't at all. He put his head down. He hit him with the crown right in the face mask. At defenseless receiver. What more do you need? I mean, I guess the only thing I can think of is that they looked at it and said, well, he didn't really, there was not an upward thrust launch motion, right?
Yeah.
Apparently that's supposed to be part of it. Okay. So
I thought some of that when the receiver is defenseless, there's kind of less you have to do to commit the foul.
Exactly. And so maybe it wasn't the upward thrust, but I also know that it's forcible contact is part of it, and there was obviously that. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not one to beg for penalties, because whatever. But it's so frustrating to watch as a fan, because you have no idea. It's like gambling at a casino. You don't know. It's the randomizer. You're just I don't know, is this going to be it or is that going to be it? And then sure enough, on the next drive, it happens again. That one looks less bad, and that's the one where the guy gets ejected. It's okay, so did they just decide, well, we screwed up the other one, so we're going to give him this one?
It was the same guy, right?
It might have been. I'm not sure.
But yeah, and that's more. Bell was it was Bell both times, but Bell was a ball carrier. He definitely got spun around, speared in the head,
and he kind of spun around, and then he got hit, and it was okay, that was kind of a moving target. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
it's the part that gets me is this: what is the point of the rule, right? Okay, this rule exists for one reason. It's to try and remove as many head-to-head, helmet-to-helmet contact hits from the game as you can, right? So it's not supposed to be, for incidental contact. Okay, cool. We get that. But when a DB is running up to a defenseless guy and he could put his helmet anywhere, literally anywhere at that point. This is not a bang bang play. The helmet, he could have wrapped him up around the waist, around the legs. I mean, Renard Bell's a skinny little dude. You do not have to hit him full force up around the shoulders in order to get him down. That helmet could have gone anywhere. Where did the helmet go? Right into Bell's head. That's the kind of stuff you're supposed to, that's the whole point of the rule, is to eliminate stuff like that. Unnecessary hits to the head where there's a reasonable option of doing something different. And anyway, whatever. We end up complaining about it, and it's stupid to complain about because it's never going to get fixed. The rule is vague enough that there's never going to be consistent enforcement. It's just like a catch rule in the NFL. You can try to legislate it with wording, and the reality is it's never going to be good enough. Like, the words are never going to be clear enough. The directives are never going to be direct enough, for anybody to have a clear sense. And I know how they train for this. Like, they try to word it with the rule, and then they show them, 86 different video examples. This is targeting. This is not targeting. This is targeting. This is not targeting. Every hit is its own little special snowflake. And so what do you get? Right? They refer back to the wording, and the wording is just vague enough, and there's really no way to make it precise enough that you're stuck trying to guess. And it's very stupid, and it's totally pointless. It's a waste of time. And I don't know that it actually makes any real difference other than to feel like, maybe somebody gets lucky and maybe somebody gets unlucky in terms of being ejected from the game.
Yeah. And I think we've bitched about that enough. It's just
more than enough.
We've obviously, as Cougs fans, have dealt with a very other frustrating instance of this before, in another big game. But it is what it is. And, but so, yeah, I mean, after that drive ends in a field goal. That was kind of a bummer. I was hoping that they go for it. Ultimately, it does not matter, as the defense wasn't going to stop anyone at all. So it didn't really matter what WSU did there. That also is the reason why I think you and I and others were just like, go for the touchdown. You need every point you possibly can get. Like,
that's exactly what
like I get why they kicked the field goal, because it brought them within a score. And so I think it was 22-29 at that point. And so you're
22-28.
Yeah, so you're within, if you stop, touchdown, extra point, take the lead. So I get it. In a universe where your defense has stopped them, and I guess you're hoping for the fumble again, but given what Oregon had just done, like the last two drives.
I mean, essentially you're betting on them screwing up in some way,
and they
which seemed to be maybe not the best bet.
And then
here's what got me about that. Here's what got me about that, by the way. Like, I know you and I are both, I think, advocates of high variance strategies, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, so early on, Rolovich does that, right? He goes for two when the situation presents itself.
They get a penalty, and they get down to the 1.5 yard line.
Yeah, so they try. I mean, it doesn't work, but they try.
And on that, you said this, and I'm going to steal it from you.
Yeah.
If you're going to go, if that 1.5 yards made a difference to you, run the ball.
Right.
Like, why are you throwing the ball? Because throwing from the 3 and throwing from the 1.5 is almost identical. If you're deciding to go for it from that range, just run the ball.
Yep. Otherwise, you could have just gone for it from the 3, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's,
and I mean, maybe there's some Coach Galaxy Brain thing where they talk themselves into, okay, well, now that it's from the 1.5, maybe they'll think we're going to run it, but we're actually going to, and it's just, I mean, coaches outsmart themselves all the time. I don't think anybody would have faulted him if they had just handed the ball off. Up to that point, they had been running the ball well, right? Like, I mean,
McIntosh was gashing them in the first half.
The run got shut down in the second half, but in the first half, it was working. So
I think
it didn't really make a lot of sense that way. But
sorry, Theo, I got to say it. Theo Lawson tweeted at some point in the first half that McIntosh, I think he was at like 60 yards in like the first quarter, and he's like, he got 100 last week, he's going to get 100 again.
Yeah, like he's well on his way, and then really work out. But
tweet.
So go for that, and then on the ensuing kickoff, they try a little like kind of pooch kick, right? Trying to recover it, which is like, hey, cool, like it didn't work. But I'm looking at that going, okay, this is a coach that kind of gets it, right? Like you're playing a team, you're outmanned. You're going to need a little something, right, to get over the top. An extra point here, like maybe an extra possession from an onside kick there. If you think you can get it, go for it. But, you got to try something to maximize your points. And then you get into the fourth quarter and you're down by 2 possessions and you are on the, their 7-yard line. It's not like this is from it's not like it was 4th and 4 from the 23. Like this is 4th and 4 from the 7. So like, to not go for it and to take the field goal to pull you within 6 when they've been running up your ass for for basically an entire quarter. It's just, I don't know. It didn't make any sense to me, and just at least just in terms of a cohesive game strategy point of view, where it's like, okay, either we're maximizing our points or we're not. And at some point something changed, and I don't know what would change, because there was definitely no evidence that the defense was going to step up at that point.
Yeah, and I think ultimately what we've found, and when you watch lots of games, I'm not sure there's any coach who has a consistent philosophy that is like,
I think that's absolutely
we
true.
will always do this in this situation, no matter the game state, no matter what's going on. We're always looking for these points. Like, that's what we do. We see this with the Seahawks coach on Sunday. Like,
Yep.
it just seems like random stuff. And even Leach, and Rolovich are both like two of the guys that go for it a lot. With Leach, we would see like some head scratching situations where he punted the ball and didn't go for it or whatever. And then the same thing. Yeah. It's like, I mean, if you think that you need everything, then why aren't you going for everything? And again, I think it's a mental thing of being in the game. Because if you don't get the touchdown, you're down by 9. It feels like you're 2 scores down. It's over. But you can kick the field goal. You have a great field goal kicker. You know he's going to make it, even though it's one of those super hard angles, and he had to like kick it straight sideways. But he's a great field goal kicker. He's going to make it. So those 3 are in your pocket. And truthfully, on that next possession, they got to 3rd and long, and even us grouches who are still mad that they didn't get, are like, okay, well, shit, get this, stop them on 3rd down right here. Get off.
Right.
I think it was like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7.
Yeah. Get
Get off the field right now and go score a touchdown and win this game. Like, go do it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
Dicker draws up a blitz. It dials up. I don't know why blitzes are dialed up.
Yeah.
That ends up with Ron Stone, the defensive end, covering Travis Dye.
That's amazing.
I was going to say Jermaine Dye. For my 90s baseball kids.
Yeah.
Travis Dye, who's one of the faster guys on Oregon, and predictably he torches him. Again, the blitz doesn't get home fast enough. Woods, I think they were hoping he was going to have a direct path. He kind of had to run around the guard, like the center in between the guard, to get to him. And he almost got to him, but he didn't quite get to him. And that was all the time that Shuck needed to hit a wide open die on the wheel route, and he was, gone. Yeah. And the game is
Whoopsies.
over. I mean, it wasn't over. WSU came back and scored a touchdown. Came back, got within 7 again, and there was a chance, but they gave up a touchdown again, and then it was really over.
Yep. Yeah, it's just frustrating in that way, to feel like maybe you got a chance, but to have it not really, I don't know, man. It just, like, to me, it just never felt like that second half it was ever like a really serious chance. Like, it felt like we were getting bullied, and it just was not, I don't know. Like, again, like a lot of that had to do with them. They kind of got ahead by 2. We weren't moving the ball at all. And then by the time we finally
once it's going 2 score
out,
down to 1, 2 score down to 1, you're just chasing, and you need something special.
And they were chasing the whole way. Yeah. I don't know. I'm I don't feel good about the defense at all. Are they marginally better? Sure. Like I'll give you, like, they are a little bit better. Like I'm looking at the comments right now on my column, and a couple people are like, "Hey, I think the defense is way better," and I'm like, I mean,
we shouldn't too hard into, fumble recoveries. And,
Well, and last year they were okay. Last year they were like 115th or whatever in S&P and those different metrics. And this year, as near as I can tell,
it's more around 100.
They're like 90th
Still bad
now.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, great. Now you're merely, and I guess the way I put it in my column was, we've gone from a train wreck to a multi-car collision. Like it's still bad. It's still not good, but at least it's, at least it's a little better. I don't know.
I think there's definitely there's more athletes, there's more playmakers in spots like Crowder and Jackson and Stone's playing pretty well. Like, I mean, I'm not faulting him for not being able to chase Travis Dye on the sideline.
Yeah.
And then you have, Hector, who came out of nowhere, and he's playing solid. Watson, the corner, is not being tested in any way whatsoever, and that's a great sign.
That's really nice.
Yeah, so like there's definitely better players. Surprisingly, it does seem that Oregon has, like, with Shuck running the offense this year, with the way maybe they're making it a little easier for him. Their offense might actually be better than it was with Herbert, and so I just don't.
They definitely have a better offensive coordinator.
They definitely have better offense. Yeah,
like that's a big part of it. Moorhead is a significant upgrade.
And so I think, like, if you're comparing like this one to last year, obviously I think WSU was able to control the game a little bit more in Eugene last year with their own offense. But the defense is there's still enough holes that what we saw in the second half can happen. Like they just and plus Rolovich has talked about. And I don't know how many guys they were missing this week, but they've been missing guys. They don't have their full complement of guys. Maybe they're getting tired by the end. Who knows? Now we have Will Rogers is transferring in the transfer portal.
Yeah, we haven't even touched that one yet.
Ron Stone's going to be playing even more. Hopefully not having to chase too many running backs 80 yards again. But yeah, so it's, it comes to the point where, like, maybe your best 11 is solid, but if you you have to rotate them out. And if you're not rotating them out, they are going to get tired.
Yeah.
And an offense as good as Oregon's with as many athletes as they have, you're talking about, Dye was not even involved in the game for 3 quarters almost. And then by the end of the game, you're like, that dude might be the player of the game.
Yeah.
Like, he absolutely torched WSU, like, down the stretch. And he wasn't even a factor for 2.5 quarters. And that's just because they have those guys. Like, because Verdell was beating him up before that, like, getting those little bits. They were more grinding through, getting third down conversions and whatever. But once Dye got going, making big plays, then they just had the guys, and Shuck is good, man. Like he looks very good, and what he can do with his legs, and we talked about it in the preview, that makes it very tough because we saw on I think it was Oregon's first touchdown to the big tight end. The defender committed to Shuck because he thought he was going to run, left the tight end, and he was open to run in for a touchdown. So when you got a guy like that puts your defense, which already is kind of behind the bar, it makes it even more difficult when you have a guy that can beat you in multiple ways. So yeah, the defense is still bad. I feel a little bit better about it than I did last year, but yeah, it's still like a liability overall.
Yeah, I want to believe, like I really do, like I want to believe, but the bad stretches, the second halves, have been so bad.
Because let's not forget about what Oregon State did in the fourth quarter.
And then what Oregon State didn't do against Washington on Saturday, which was anything. And I know Washington's defense is good, and whatever, but it's like we got shredded in the second half by those guys. And then again, against Oregon, shredded in the second half. Now, maybe we should be giving more credit to Jake Dickert for because maybe it's hey, we scheme them up in the first half. We've done, got a really good game plan, and then it's hold on to your butts for a half. Like maybe that's just the deal. Maybe we've got a guy who's really smart, really bright, comes up with a really excellent game plan to hold the other team down for a while, eventually the other team sort of makes their adjustments, figures some things out, and then again it's then the talent disparity becomes problematic. So I'm willing to admit, that's a possibility. I'm also willing to say, look, maybe it is just a matter of, something finally clicking, where, it's like whatever these minor execution issues are, come back. I mean, let's just talk about that, terrible play at the end of the half again. I mean, I could totally see a scenario where that sort of thing is more likely to happen because you got a new staff, and that's a situational thing.
Yeah.
And okay, so now we've got to communicate a situational thing, and nobody's been in that situation with this staff before, and so the situation got fucked up. Okay, so I mean, maybe as the year goes on, maybe more of that stuff gets cleaned up. And some of the teams we're going to play, frankly, are looking like they're not necessarily offensive juggernauts. Like, Washington certainly didn't look very good, and Cal looked really terrible. Now, maybe those are just, circumstances from, two teams where, they didn't play last week.
Right.
So maybe that's and Cal's is even worse than that, right? I mean, they traveled down to UCLA with about 48 hours worth of notice to go play that game. So, maybe there's nothing to read into that. But I don't think any of us thought Cal or UW's offense were going to be all that good, when the season started. I do think this weekend Stanford, whatever the over is on that game, probably isn't high enough. Stanford scored a bunch of points against Colorado. They really should have scored more points against Oregon. We already went over why that didn't happen. So there's going to be yards on yards probably on Saturday for that game. But maybe the defense can again. Maybe this weekend they'll get lucky and David Shaw will outsmart himself and do something that he doesn't need to do in order to try and score points.
Yeah, and I think your point of. Maybe there's definitely some things that are like, maybe the guys are just figuring out a new defense, and we should give them a little leeway, especially when, you didn't come in with like this, the most talented group, even though we've seen some new guys come in that are definitely weren't contributing last year, but are definitely contributing this year that I think have risen the talent level overall. You still have those maybe mistakes that happen, but yeah, I think let's take a break and maybe we'll talk about some of the positives, talk about the offense a little bit, and just some of the general positives. Maybe why we don't even though the loss was frustrating for some reasons, there is some positivity coming out of this.
And we're back.
All right.
Let's get positive.
Well, before we get into the positives, I want to talk about the beer I'm drinking and the beer you're drinking. So sorry on the oversell there, but we are going to get into that in a second. But this is our 100th episode, and so we got to be drinking. So what are you drinking for number 100, Jeff?
Well, I would love to say that I put a lot of thought into this, but I totally did not. So I am having the Matchless Citra Enigma Hazy IPA. Mm-hmm. It's outstanding. So it is, let's see, the hops, as you might imagine, are Citra and Enigma hops. I can't say that I've ever knowingly had a beer with Enigma hops in it.
I think you probably have. They just don't advertise it that much.
Yeah, maybe. That probably.
But they are new. They are a new hop variety.
Yeah. So, and the malt is Pilsner and flaked wheat. The yeast is juice, and the descriptors are, it says puzzling, ? So, there we go for this beer. It's tasty. It's a good deal.
I think sometimes this podcast is a bit of an enigma. I would agree. You think they're just going to talk about football, and then suddenly they stop in the middle of it and talk about beer in the middle of talking about a game.
Who does that?
That's just it's as it's defined on Google. It's mysterious, puzzling, and difficult to understand. But
Yes.
as we've said, we don't care.
We don't.
So perfect choice, Jeff. Man, you must put so much thought into picking the Enigma beer.
Yeah. How about you?
So I did put thought into it.
I know you did. You're good at that.
I went down to my cellar and I perused my cellar. And
I was gonna say it probably helps to have a lot of options when you're putting thought into it. Because I open my fridge and I'm like, well, here's the 3 different beers I've got right now.
Yeah, I basically have a beer store in my basement, so I have a lot of options. I went deep into one I've been saving and whatever. So as I said, like not a lot of podcasts make it to 100. Like I always say in like Cougs Center in like blog years, it's like 100 years old because it's, we're in like year 12 or something at this point, and or year 13 actually. But 100 episodes of podcast is also pretty ancient, and that's why I went with Fremont Ancient One Dark Star Bourbon Barrel Aged Oatmeal Stout from 2016. This is not. They've produced Ancient One twice. One was this like Huron Hunting Club only member beer, and then this one they released to the public. They released 2 beers: the Dark Star, Ancient One Dark Star, and Ancient One Bee Bomb. So this one I haven't had since I've had it since, but that was like a brief tasting at a beer tasting where we did like 20 barrel-aged stouts and then ranked them and stuff. So that was the only other time I've had it. It was a very small pour. But before that, I had it at the release, which was in 2016. I waited. A funny story on this. I actually waited all day outside of Fremont. Like we got there, like 7 a.m. outside Fremont Brewing. And the funny thing is, a lot of breweries will prevent you from, drinking in line while you're waiting for these beers. But Fremont, you're just standing on a public street. So it's not their job to police you. Like it's literally the police's job to police you. Even though like, and I've done this, like we do bottle shares in these lines, and I've seen police drive by and they don't do anything about it. So I've been
not too worried about that.
Having a great time all day. I was very near the front of the line. So before they came out and handed out these tokens to everyone in line to make sure that if you're in line, you'll get the beer. So like cutters couldn't just come in at the last second and get beer. For some reason I was like talking to someone. I don't know what I was doing. I look over and everyone's got these tokens in their hand. Like, wait, when did they? Because they had come out and said like, stay here. We're about to hand out the tokens. They're like, okay. And I look at my friends and they're like, you didn't get a token? I'm like, no, I didn't get the tokens. I've been waiting here since like 7 a.m. to get this beer. Like literally one each. Like you get one of the Dark Star, one of the Bee Bomb. So I literally book it around the block. Like I don't know if you've been to Fremont Brewing. Like there's like it takes up like quite part of a block, and you can run around the back. Yeah. There's like this like like greenery store around the back, and I ran all the way to the end, and they had just handed out the last tokens. Like, but I tell the person, and they're like, well, and I'm like, I've been here all day, and they know I've been there all day. They've seen me in line. They come hand out donuts. They come and see what we're drinking. I think it's fun. And so he's like, okay, like they take me back in the back, and they've got they're like, okay, we have some spare ones just for this situation. So they gave me 2 of the spare tokens.
Oh.
And so I was like,
that's wonderful.
Huge relief. If I come back, all my friends are like, oh my God, dude, we were so worried for you. Like, so worried that I couldn't, spend like like ridiculous prices for this little bottle of beer. But so yeah, I got my beer. The Dark Star is actually the harder to get one because they actually distributed some of it out, as Fremont always does, far less. Like, a bar would get 6 of these. A bottle shop would get 6 of them. And usually it was the bee balm. So I got a couple extra bee balm, but I only have ever gotten 1 of the Dark Star. So this is my 1 bottle of it. That's why I chose it. It was a little more special because it's just, it's my 1 bottle. And yeah, it's so, what is it? It is, the reason it's called Ancient One. It is a blend of 18 and 30 month bourbon barrel aged Dark Star. So, some of the Dark Star was aged 18 months in barrels. Some of it was aged 30 months in barrels. Do that math. And the barrels they used was a blend of 12-year-old Heaven Hills barrels and 35-year-old Heavens Hills barrels. And the story on these barrels is basically, there's been other beers made with them. Basically, Heaven Hills forgot that they had these barrels. There was whiskey aging in these barrels. And I think the whiskey wasn't very good. But they've so there's been other beers like Goose Island Rare, and a few other beers that have gotten breweries that have gotten a hold of these barrels, and truthfully, I think maybe the barrel master at Fremont used to work at Goose Island, so I wonder if there was a connection there where they were able to hook up and get these like special barrels. So yeah, this was aged. So they're saying using these rare 35-year-old bourbon barrels adds an extra layer of intensity and complexity, creating a truly unique beer. I will tell you, when this beer was fresh, it was hot as fuck and tasted like as much like whiskey as it did like a stout. Like it was burning. Like it was tasty. Like it was so like they said, it's unique because like. But
it was just like straight booze.
It was very boozy. It's definitely mellowed out in like the 4.5 years since I bought and it says please do enjoy this barrel aged ale today, but know that Ancient Bourbon Dark Star will age gracefully for at least another 5 years. So it's been about 4.5 years since this was released. So it's definitely the whiskey is still present. Like this has more kind of like bourbon presence than like a fresh Dark Star, regular barrel aged Dark Star would, like the typical one that's aged in like 12 and 18. I think it's typically just aged in 12-year barrels. So it still has probably more bourbon presence than that, but it still has that great base beer that the bourbon barrel aged Dark Star has, which is not, by the way, that canned Dark Star you get at the store. Which is another great beer, because you cannot take an 8% beer, put it in bourbon barrels, and have it come out a 14.5% beer. That's not how that works. What Fremont does is is ages a barrel. They brew a barrel strength Dark Star, which is like 14%, and that's what they age in barrels, because that holds up to the oak and the whiskey a lot better and doesn't get overpowered. I mean, it still got overpowered in this beer because it was just such a strong barrel that was so saturated after 35 years. They talk about the angel share. The angel share. I can't even imagine. I mean, those barrels must have been very like there must have been a lot missing or whatever, and that had been evaporated into the wood. But yeah, this is very good. It's a very, very good, just straight up regular old barrel aged stout. I'd encourage you to I talk about them all the time. Don't Drink Beer did a great review of these beers years ago, and it was spot on. This is just a phenomenal straight up barrel aged stout with no frills. Obviously 35 years is a frill, but no cocoa, no coconuts, no Oreos or marshmallow or whatever all the stouts have in them now. This is straight up old school, bourbon barrel aged stout, and I love it. And it's probably very likely the last time I will ever drink it, unless they make it again. But in terms of this vintage, 2016, I won't ever taste it again. So I'm glad I'm drinking the whole goddamn bottle myself, because it's episode 100, baby. I'm drinking that Ancient One. And I just, obviously I'm very excited about it. I have a story behind it. It came in this ridiculous double wax. It has black wax with white wax on top of it. That was really fun to open. But yeah, it's really cool. You know, just go down to your Safeway, pick it up off the shelf, and grab it. It'll be nice and tasty.
Yeah, it'll be right there.
It'll be right there. But yeah, so yeah, Ancient One Dark Star, check it out. Sorry I couldn't share it with you, Jeff.
I am too. That would be great.
Well, I still have one of the.
I told you I did have the anniversary stout from Fremont that you gave me the other day. And it was more of a trade because you gave me some beer, that's true.
So.
That's true. But it was awesome, man. I had that during the Cougar game. It's fantastic.
Yeah. If you like cherry, man. If you like cherry stouts.
Yeah, there was so much cherry in that. Oh my gosh.
That makes it a very divisive beer. Some people are like, fuck this cherry. It is too much cherry. I'm kind of on the fence. The beer is so well done.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm like, if the cherry wasn't there, I would enjoy this more. But I still think the cherry provides a unique aspect because it's actually done well. Yeah. Like, there's a lot of cherry stouts that are just straight up trash.
Yeah.
And it's
sometimes they get a little like, the cherry tastes like artificially sweet.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was not the case on this one. This one tasted like kind of like a chocolate covered cherry. Yeah. You know, where it was, you get mostly the chocolate is dominating. The kind of the dark bitterness of the chocolate is dominating with sort of the cherry flavor underneath that. And it was super good. I loved it. But I like that. I like that flavor profile in general. So
yeah. And what they did a good job with that one is like, so a cherryish flavor. If a beer gets certain like unwanted bacteria or yeast in it, like it can get like and gets infected, as they say, it can get sort of a cherry flavor to it. So sometimes people kind of like the infected stouts because they like that because it gets this like kind of acidic cherry notes to it. So sometimes people will taste a cherry stout and think it's infected. But Fremont did a really good job incorporating the cherry in on that beer so that it doesn't taste like it's like a sour beer. It just tastes like it's a cherry. Like you said, a chocolate-covered cherry. Yep. But we're not drinking that beer right now. No. But hey, good call out for that good beer. I am bummed on those ones. Like I was thinking about it. It is just 1 year behind. Fremont started in 2009 and Cougs Center started in 2008. So it's just like 1 year off of the anniversaries. Otherwise, we could have those anniversary beers every year for our Cougs Center anniversary. But
that would have been cool.
But sadly, no.
Alas.
All right, let's talk about the positives we got from the football game.
There's a lot of them.
Again, you can skip pressing the plus 30 button.
But
yeah, I think there's definitely positives. One, I think Oregon is better than I thought they are. So, like,
I think so.
I think they're kind of living up to the hype. I think they're a very good team. They are very talented.
Especially on defense.
There are some plays that I saw made by some of the, like Sewell, the true freshman. There are some plays that you saw their guys make that are like, those are studs.
Yeah, those are big boy plays.
If they were not in that game, that play's going for yardage. They're in that game, it's not. Like that.
Yep.
So yeah, they're very talented. Which, with that in mind, WSU's defense or offense did some particularly early on, did some really good things.
Yeah, I mean, they, total put up 421 yards. 6.4 yards per play, which is not good, but also is not bad. I mean, that's we've had some that are pretty terrible. And to be honest, the big difference between this game and the game before was simply the inability to run the ball after halftime. Like that. Yep. Like that's really where that's really where the difference came in, and the basically the explosives, right? So like we were talking about these drives earlier, and we were talking about how after the turnovers, of course we want to be greedy and we want to score and we want everything, but it's like, look, I mean, Oregon, they have something to say about that, right? Like, yep. like they get some influence over that, and after two, pretty explosive drives where you had, 6 plays, 77 yards over 3 minutes for the first TD. And then you had 4 plays, 53 yards for the second TD over a minute 33, right? So like 2 relatively quick scoring drives, 10 plays covering 130 yards. Like that's really good.
Yeah,
right?
we're used to air raid where we were just like, it was basically like grinding out drives.
Right.
Like getting, 6, 7, 8 yards.
Right.
But this is a more vertical attack.
Right.
You're feeling like you want those quick drives. Like those should be happening if it's running well.
But what happened after that was, 3 plays minus 2 we talked about, and then 7 plays, 35 yards for a field goal. So that's 5 yards a play. 13 plays, 59 yards. That's like 4 yards a play, right? And then you've got, or actually maybe like 4.5 yards a play, which is again pretty awful. And then of course the one play, the kneel down, and then you had 6 plays for 12 yards, 2 yards a play, 3 plays for 8 yards, less than 3 yards a play. Like that was the series of drives. So they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drives where they scored 2 field goals, had 3 punts, and they averaged probably like 4 yards or so a play. So that was real tough sledding. And then you had after that, then we got back into, 7 plays, 79 yards. That's the one that ends in the field goal, which we already talked about. 9 plays, 74 yards for a touchdown. Again, that's, some nice yardage there. So, it was that middle, those middle 5 drives, that really were killer. But Oregon's defense is real good. You talked about that, and I'm encouraged, man. 29 points. I think when we go through this season, you're going to see a lot of teams struggle to put up 29 points against that defense. And maybe I proved to be wrong, but I really do legitimately believe that 29 points against that defense is actually going to prove to be a pretty darn good total. And, as encouraging as anything was, Jaden DeLora again, was great, had a better game really by just about any measure than he had in the first game against a better defense. He threw for, about 8.5 yards per attempt, which is great. At least I think against that Oregon defense. Now I do think their one vulnerability is getting stretched deep. We saw that. And early on, Oregon was sort of like they were kind of messed up trying to cover guys deep, and that's a lot of where I think McIntosh found some room to run early on, and Oregon seemed to kind of figure that out. But still, 321 yards on 39 attempts is fantastic. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kept his cool even as the game was kind of nearing its end, and he could have started forcing some stuff into some really bad spots. Still didn't do it. I think he had some opportunities to run that he didn't take.
Yes.
I think so. So what that looked like to me was a guy whose coaching staff talked to him last week about, hey man, keep your eyes downfield, keep looking downfield, don't be so quick to run. So then he goes out there this game and it's, I've got 15 yards of grass in front of me, but I'm going to go ahead and make a throw because my coaching staff wants me to look downfield, right? Like right. That's kind of what it looked like to me, was the classic, don't run if you've got, keep your head up, which of course you want him to do. So, he'll figure out that balance. He'll figure out when the times are to tuck it and go, and when the times are to keep looking downfield. And, ultimately he takes good care of the ball. He seems to make good decisions. His throwing was excellent in this game. He was, real close to 2 other big play touchdowns, one to Travell Harris, one to Jameer Calvin. So yeah, nothing but positives, nothing but good things. Continues to play like someone who just absolutely does not look like a freshman. It's really kind of wild. And I think we're impressed anyway, but I think we'd be even more blown away if we hadn't had such, incredible quarterback play for the last, 7 years or so. For us, it's kind of like, oh yeah, another quarterback playing really well. I think at most other schools, if they had a true freshman playing like this, they'd be doing backflips. And I think we're all appreciating it, but I also think on some level we're like, oh yeah, good, we get good quarterbacks. That's what we do at Wazoo. He really is something special, man.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at I think you watched some of it too. But I watched the UW Oregon State game.
Oh my God.
And you have two guys who are both highly regarded at high school, rated higher than Jaden DeLora, and just looking
much
terrible.
Higher. Rated much higher. Let's not mince words. Like much higher.
And they're struggling. And I mean, UW is not really trying to throw the ball much, but also when they do, it's not looking very good. And Trishan Gebbia, like, geez, now, like, after watching that, I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling not so good about WSU's defense, especially because he looked completely lost. And so it's, you look at that and you're like, how do we just continue to get dudes that can throw the ball? Like, Jaden is the highest rated quarterback we've had in as a starter, and a while, like, for sure, like, probably since, man, I don't know.
Connor was probably about in that range.
But obviously Falk was a walk-on. Gardner was a walk-on originally. Yep. Gordon didn't even get a scholarship.
Gordo had no scholarship offers out of high school.
So, and they were all, good. And then we have this freshman who, he missed a couple throws. Every quarterback misses throws. He made a few decisions where you're like, come on, man, like, maybe don't slide so early. You're 2 yards short of the first down. Get the first down. Or he, went to throw a lead block on a run. You're like, okay, what are you doing? Like, why are you willing to throw your body up for that and not the other thing? It's like, okay. I mean, you like that. I mean, that play right there is how you this is going to sound very like talk radio-ish, but like, you do shit like that, the team is going to rally around you. Like, if you're throwing a lead block on a run, like, hell yeah, dude. Like,
I think that's legit. That's not even just talk radio.
Yeah,
I think that's legit.
He got roughed up a bit on that too. He threw that block and then he kind of got mushed between a couple guys. So you're like, careful, man. But again, like, he's a freshman. He's trying to be that leader, and as a quarterback, you're supposed to be, and that's very hard as an 18-year-old coming in to do that. But yeah, like, he has exceeded I'm telling you, the offense in general has exceeded my expectations to this point.
Yeah.
Given, the constraints that they've had, given, it's such a timing based offense, and people, I get frustrated. It's been a couple games in a row. They're like, well, it's very similar to the air raid. It's like, no, it's not.
God.
Like, the route trees are completely different.
Yeah.
You're throwing on timing based on open spaces. Like, it's completely different. Like, your receivers and quarterbacks need to be making the same decisions, looking at they're making assessments, and this is stuff that you're supposed to get through repetition. And, like, obviously you should have figured this out by now if you're watching. They stretch the field a hell of a lot more in this. Like, you're looking at vertical throws. And Jaden, he misses some. All quarterbacks miss 40-yard throws. It happens. But, like, and I know that one to Travell was particularly frustrating, where they called it inbounds, but he wasn't inbounds. But if a better throw, he would have walked into the end zone. But yeah, but those are going to happen. But overall, man, like, this kid it's his second game ever. He was playing, what's probably a top 15 defense in the country. Like, I'm at least, like, and probably even more so in terms of talent. And we talked about that in the preview. And he, like, 25 of 39 for 321 and 2 scores, no picks. Only took 1 sack. He definitely could have been sacked many more times. His escapability, it keeps drives going that otherwise would have been, halted. He wasn't able to get out and run like he did against Oregon State. I think, after having a game of tape, obviously Oregon was probably looking for that a little bit more, and they have better athletes to cover that. So when you have like some of the dudes on the linebackers and defensive ends that can run like they do, it's like it's a little harder to get loose. But
yeah, I mean, there were multiple times in that game where somebody looked like they had, both. It was really near the line of scrimmage where it was really noticeable, right?
Yeah.
Like where it looked like Delora had some space to run, or it looked like Deion McIntosh had some space to run, and then dude just like chases him down from behind.
Like Thibodeau or Sewell or someone
Sewell. God, and you were just like,
Sewell was impressive, man. I gotta say.
You're like, what the hell? Like, yeah, there definitely was some of that in the game, and I think part of Delora too, like. I mean, he left a little bit on the table. Like there was still some meat left on that bone. I mean, there was the throw I think you referenced there where where a better throw and Travell Harris sort of waltzes into the end zone, but it was underthrown and then he ends up stepping on the sideline just barely, right, as he's trying to catch the ball. And then there was another one where you could see they show the replay. And you could see Lucas Bacon just like all alone,
absolutely,
like absolutely alone, running toward the end zone, and he just never saw him. So so you imagine stuff like that probably isn't going to happen a whole lot. But then of course he makes throws like the touchdown to Bacon, where Oregon's got their little cover two, and he just fires a freaking dart right in between.
That's arm strength right there, man.
Yeah,
and that's
right in between the corner who's kind of sitting a little lower and the safety who's not quite there yet. And that throw had to be thrown with some heat into a tight window, and it was an incredible throw. So
yeah, he threw it so well it looked like Bacon was wide open.
Yeah, but he wasn't.
But yeah, like that Oregon has their defensive backs designed to where a quarterback has to make a perfect throw for that play to work. And he did. And that was, I was going to say, that was one of the big positives. Lucas Bacon scored a touchdown in this game.
Yeah.
Lucas Bacon, a walk-on. He is not on scholarship. Scored a touchdown against Oregon's defense. And it's so cool to see how the team has been so happy. And
yeah, that was one of the most fun things was, that walk-ons, those guys stick together. Because they're really the only ones who truly understand what it means to be a walk-on. And so you saw after the touchdown, they show him celebrating on the sideline, and they're, so exciting, Lucas Bacon scored a touchdown. And then they show it, and it's like, I swear, like all these walk-ons that whose names, we recognize as we're looking at these guys, are coming up and patting them on the head. Yeah, good job. And it's not like it was only walk-ons, obviously, but it was definitely like the walk-ons definitely made it a point to go over and dap up one of their own. So really, really cool scene. Really, really cool scene on that. I do sit there and kind of go, where's Brandon Gray and where's Donovan Ollie and where are these big receivers that are supposed to be good? Why are they not playing above the walk-on? But good for Lucas.
He probably should have had 2 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, I mean, really, he probably should have. So, good for him, good on him, and that's that's fantastic. Really would have liked to have been able to run the ball a little bit better. I think that would have made a pretty huge difference in the second half. But Oregon's defense is really geared to Mario Cristobal is very much an old school kind of coach just in terms of philosophy. Run the ball, stop the run. Those are his top 2 priorities. And at that point, he's going to try and make you one-dimensional, and we were one-dimensional, and that one dimension works pretty good until you get inside the 20, and then it becomes real difficult, and that's kind of Oregon's recipe for success. I mean, I went and looked at their stats from last year. They were number 2 in the country last year in red zone touchdown defense. I think I
remember that from.
Yeah, I think they allowed touchdowns on something like 40% of drives inside the red zone or something like that, which is a very, very low number. It's normally something like 60% for most teams. So, they're really good. That's what they do. And, it's through 2 weeks against Stanford and against us. That's what they've done. They'll give up some yards, and then it just gets really, real tough, to penetrate once they get in there. And WSU did really, I think, as well, as well as you could have hoped for. Once they got in the red zone against Oregon, I think they did, exceptionally well. They just need to get down there maybe a couple more times, not have that that stretch in the middle of 5 drives where they really didn't, move the ball at all.
Yeah. Overall, going forward from these first 2 games, I feel better about this team than I did at the start. A lot of that is it feels like we have a quarterback. Like I do think it would help a lot to be able to rotate the running back. Max Borghi.
Even just have our best running back.
Yeah,
as
having
great
Max
as McIntosh
Borghi would be great.
Let's be real.
And let's be honest. Like the way we've seen Rolovich try to, he did it again. Got a rushing play to Travell Harris. Who knows what he may, maybe he's got something special for Borghi as well, who we know is very good catching the ball out of the backfield, which is not something that has been in Rolovich's offense very much, to be honest. That there hasn't, like in the past, there haven't been a lot of running back catches, and we haven't seen outside of that shovel pass, which was cool, by the way. Shovel pass is back. Shovel pass lives. Outside of, we saw a couple shovel passes to McIntosh. Other than that, the running back is chipping. He's when he's in there, he's part of pass protection typically, and he's not going out into the pattern versus the air raid where the running back was always over there on the right for you, or he was running a wheel route or whatever. So it's a little different, but it'd be interesting to see if we had Borghi. McIntosh has been very good, but I really think that Borghi's got to be watching these games and going like, oh my God, I could be tearing it up right now. Because McIntosh is like, he's putting up some numbers right now, and I'm sure Borghi's thinking, I want to put up those numbers.
Yeah.
But Rolovich said today they don't know if he's going to come back this season, so we probably shouldn't, probably shouldn't expect it. But it would be nice right now if they had him, and Deion McIntosh wouldn't have to play.
I'd be satisfied if he was back for the Apple Cup.
That'd be great.
Just give me Max Borghi for the Apple Cup, please.
Yeah,
please, pretty please with sugar on top.
But of course, that's in less than 2 weeks.
I know. It's a
that's
week
next
from Friday.
week. It's next week.
Uh-huh.
This
Too
shortened
soon.
season. But I will say, I feel a lot better. Like what I was trying to say, I feel a lot better about the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jaden Delora is a big part of that. A few more playmakers on defense, big part of that. We talked about that. I feel a lot better about them getting to 3 or 4 wins versus 1 or 2 wins, which was kind of my expectation coming in. So
I 100% agree.
Yeah, and so overall, yeah, they lost. Yeah, they didn't cover. I really wanted them to score on that last drive just to cover.
So they could cover.
Yeah, I wasn't betting on the game, but champions cover and whatever. But they didn't.
It's all about that touchdown at the end of the first half, man.
Yep, there it is.
They don't give up that touchdown. They cover.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, so football. We talked about it earlier. Will Rogers the third is in the transfer portal, which is a bummer.
I have no idea. It seems like there's got to be more to that story. He played plenty in the first 2 games. I think he played a little bit less this last game, but overall he's played a ton. I don't know, man. Very weird. Very, very, very weird. After the game, he posted a tweet with just a peace sign.
Yeah.
And that was it, But then, you look through his timeline, and it's all... I mean, there's no indications that he's having any negative thoughts about the school. It's just, and he's a senior.
Well, I'll say WSU football player Twitter is definitely back. They are tweeting up a storm.
Yeah, but it's I'm looking at his tweets, and I'm like, there's nothing. Everything there looks positive. He's bought in, and I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea, but it is a bummer. I hope he's well. I hope everything's good. Because it's definitely not a good situation for the team. They're already amazingly thin at on the defensive line, thanks to McDougal being out and now he's gone. So and Willie Taylor didn't play in this last game. who's ostensibly one of your 2 or 3 best pass rushers. So, who knows if he's coming back this weekend? I have no idea. So it's, it pretty suddenly is looking like, I don't know. I mean, it's already a unit that I don't think we feel super great about. So it's, bummer. I hope he's okay. I hope everything's all right. I hope everything in his family's okay. It just sucks. You'd like to see a guy like that end his career, going out the way he wants to go out, and maybe not, transferring out in the middle of his senior year.
Yeah, that's a bummer to lose him. But before we finished up here, I wanted to talk about Hercules Mata'afa, a guy who was amazing at WSU, terrorized the Pac-12, particularly in his junior season. He declared early, went undrafted, has been injured and been struggling to make the team at Minnesota, but through the last couple weeks has really been showing him that he belongs. Today on Monday Night Football, did you get to watch it? I didn't get to watch it, but
no, I didn't get to watch any of it. I just know what what was out there. Which
obviously you watch Twitter, and then people are freaking out, and I see people are I saw people tweeting like that's one bad Mata'afa, and that's like, yeah, we've been doing that at WSU.
Yeah, not original.
Yeah, I tweeted like it's so cool when WSU stuff becomes mainstream. Like when Gardner Minshew last year, everyone was learning about Gardner Minshew last year. It's like, yeah, we know, and now everyone learned about Klay Thompson and his weirdness, and like, yeah, we knew about this guy, we knew he was weird, so Mata'afa has been doing what he did at WSU. He's been getting into backfields, causing havoc. He basically got a sack for one of his teammates today, and then also had a tackle for loss for himself, a couple tackles overall, and just people, NFL pundits, people on Twitter being like, hey, this guy is good. And it was really cool to see Mata'afa. He tweeted after the game. He tweeted, "I belong in this league," all caps, ! So he's obviously feeling really good about it, which is great because we always felt like, when he didn't get drafted, it felt like insanity. Yeah. You're like, I don't care if this dude is 15 pounds lighter than what he should be as a defensive end or whatever. It's like, he at 250 at WSU was playing an interior lineman position and just wrecking shop. Like, there's talent there very clearly, and he's had some bad luck trying to get off the ground in the NFL, but it seems like he's healthy and he's getting to play, and it's just really fun to see him taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, that was, the biggest thing was like, hey, how it's not like he was just like beating up on the FCS teams on the schedule or whatever. He was annihilating
remember
future
that
NFL linemen.
Remember that Utah game, where he just basically won the game for WSU.
Yeah, all the turnovers, and he was living in the backfield.
He had 4 sacks in that game. It was insane. And
then watching him, just eat up Stanford, and they're making their linemen look like sloths, and USC did the same thing to those guys. It was incredibly impressive. Final season, and really, really cool to see him get an opportunity. Like you mentioned, the bad injury luck. He had I think he blew out his knee, right? Something like that. As a rookie, so didn't really get a chance there. And then at one point this year was cut. He was waived by the Vikings. So super, super awesome to see him. To see him have success. It always makes you feel good too when it's a guy who seemed to leave WSU with a special connection to the school, and he seems to be that kind of guy. He's on Twitter, cheering for the Cougs during their games, and those are the kinds of things. And not that every player has to do that, but as as Joe fan, like you and I are. We love our school, even though we didn't actually play football there. It's always cool when you see like the football players and those kinds of guys, enjoying the school. It's the same, you mentioned Klay Thompson, same kind of deal. Like it's like, when you see it makes them feel like one of us, which of course they are. But sometimes, as a student, it doesn't always feel that way, right? I mean, athletes live a pretty different life than your run of the mill student. So when you see athletes and those things are in common, where they loved Pullman just the same way you did, those things always make you feel good. So yeah, definitely rooting for Hercules, and really, really cool to see him have a big night. And I hope he can parlay that into more success. And the Vikings won the game, so that's always good too. And
they've been winning quite a few lately.
Yeah, they maybe not as bad as their early record showed, and Herc had something to do with that, which is very cool.
Yeah. I hope he plays well, and then I hope he gets that big contract and he's set for life. That's what I always hope for these guys. So yeah, and it's just when you feel like a guy can do something, and it just feels great to see that he gets to do it, and then he gets recognition beyond your like subculture, because basically it's like we knew him. Probably obviously some Pac-12 teams knew him, but they didn't get to watch him every week destroy linemen. So we knew what he could do, and we just knew he needed that opportunity, and he's having that, and I just it'd be awesome to see him just continue it and get more and more success, and obviously he deserves all of it, so it's great.
Yep, it's awesome.
Cool, man. I don't know, is there any other Coug news? Football game?
Do you realize that we're like 9 days or 8 days away from the beginning of the basketball season?
That's bonkers. Before the Apple Cup, we're going to have a basketball game. So
I know.
I have a couple, actually. No, just one, I think, on the 25th.
But still, it's absolutely nuts.
It's nuts. We'll see. I think even Rolovich said, I don't know when Borghe's going to come back. Depends on how many games we play. I don't know what he was referring to there, but I'm sure it was a couple things. I'm sure it was a bit of a double meaning. Obviously, we're getting some more lockdown stuff, but it's hard. It's hard for me to get super excited. But I'll tell you, WC basketball been fucking crushing it on these videos they've been releasing with the assistant coaches. Yeah, with our boy Andershek and the rest of the guys, Phelps and the rest. They've just been like crushing it with these videos. And today they released one with all the newcomers talking about who this recruiting class, which is truly one of the best in program history, just on a straight up numbers standpoint, on a paper standpoint. But just with the coach, the coaching staff that we have in place and the talent that they just brought in, I said today, it's this just feels like a class that's going to be like fondly remembered for a long, long time at WSU. So I'm really excited to watch them get in action. Whoever's going to be able to play, whoever's going to get to see time in that first game, just to see them go after it. We obviously know our team is not. The expectations are lower this year without Ellaby, but he'll find out his NBA fortune soon. But
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Or Wednesday?
Yep.
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday. So tomorrow for people who are listening to this.
Yeah, because they'll be listening to it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully he gets drafted, man. That'd be awesome.
Hopefully he gets a good situation, and hopefully all these young guys are as good as we think they're going to be, and I'm really excited to find out.
Me too. I'm excited to find out the schedule at some point.
Yeah. I think
that'd be cool.
I have a feeling we might be playing games before we know when the other games will be played. It just kind of feels like,
hey, there's a game tonight. Wait, what? There's a game? Yeah, don't worry about the race, but we don't even know the schedule yet.
Cal and UCLA
don't worry about that.
Cal and
Yeah.
UCLA know all about that.
Yeah, we might end up playing Idaho 13 times.
Yeah, like, well, let's just play again. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll just
Cowan
drive
Spectrum
across.
or Beasley Coliseum tonight.
Just drive
Flip
across, whatever. Just play a little game. Be a good way to rack up wins.
Do you think so? Idaho has that like small gym that they'll play their original gym that they play some games in.
Yeah.
Do you think they would try to put out the Cowan Spectrum in the Kibbe Dome, or they would just play in that smaller gym? I think they would just play in the smaller gym, right? No fans.
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. It seems like a lot of effort to, to do all that setup in the Kibbe Dome for no fans. So
yeah.
I would. They'd probably play in the smaller one.
And I'll claim ignorance here. I don't know what the Big Sky's plans are.
I don't know. I don't know about basketball. Obviously they put off their football season until spring. So I don't know. I would imagine that they would try to play basketball, just because the conference gets NCAA tournament win shares like everybody else.
I'll say they do have games on the schedule. So I don't know.
Idaho does, or
Idaho.
just the Big Sky?
Idaho's playing Cal Poly on Black Friday. So
okay.
So they do have games on the schedule. I feel like Google has been pretty decent about updating the new games. So I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm seeing a full Big Sky schedule on Ken Palm.
You're seeing a full one?
A full Big Sky. Yeah, they got.
Oh, so yeah. If Ken Palm has it on there, he was very cautious about putting those games on there.
Yeah. So here's what they're doing, though. This is wild. So they are doing. You're going to travel to play a game against a team, and then you're going to play that team twice.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing that
in like 3 days or 2 days.
Yeah, they're playing Sac State right.
Yeah, so they play Sacramento State twice away, and then Northern Arizona comes up and they play twice at home, and then Southern Utah, they go there and play twice, January 7th, January 9th, and then that's how it goes the whole way down. That's crazy. Although it kind of makes sense.
Crazy, but it does make some sense, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's I guess you would save on travel. And then get your
Big Sky teams especially,
which it matters for them. Get your full slate of games in, or something approaching your full slate of games that way. So rather than playing home and home, you just go play them twice. Although it does look like Portland State is a home and home, but everything else is.
And Eastern is a home. And
Eastern is a home and home. So
obviously that makes sense. They're not. That's a short.
But
drive.
Idaho State isn't, which is weird.
That's
Weber
pretty
State
far
which
drive.
is weird.
Right, like Idaho to Moscow to Pocatello is a pretty far drive.
Yeah, but Moscow to Portland is a far drive.
Yeah, that's
like a 6-hour drive.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Big Sky trying to be creative.
Moscow to Pocatello, by the way, is almost 9 hours.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I've been to Pocatello. It is deep,
I have not,
deep Idaho.
So there you go.
It is deep Idaho. You're almost in Wyoming at that point, or Utah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, that was when Amanda and I moved to Nashville many years ago, and we drove. We had a friend that was going to Idaho State for grad school, a WSU friend, so we stayed in Pocatello a night. So.
Yeah, and then Montana, they're doing the away thing on that one, even though Montana's probably like a 6-hour drive, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Missoula's probably like a 6-hour drive, so I don't know. Anyway, whatever. This is Idaho talk.
We're talking distances between cities. It's actually a 4-hour drive, 4 hour and 14 minutes, pretty good. We're talking distances between Big Sky cities. Welcome to the Big Sky Geography Podcast.
Big Sky Podcast.
Where we don't really talk about sports. We talk about geography of the Big Sky.
All right. Well, we'll have to have some kind of some kind of football podcast or some kind of basketball podcast next week when there's maybe actually a schedule. Hopefully that'll drop soon. I would hope.
All we have is we have pairings, weekends. We have general weekends, and we have a few preseason games. That we know of. So that's it.
So that's it. I'll give people something to look forward to for next week. Hopefully,
Yeah.
also a win over Stanford next week. But we'll have a preview for Stanford.
We'll have a preview of Stanford coming out on Friday.
We'll have that on Friday.
And we'll have, the recap on Monday or Tuesday, depending on our own schedules.
Yeah.
Probably
and
Monday, considering
how excited we are to talk about it.
Yeah. I will be podcasting from Orcas Island next, either if we do it Sunday or Monday. So we got like a cabin, so it's fairly isolated.
Yeah.
I think any plans of visiting the brewery on Orcas Island are no longer on the table. It's Amanda's birthday, and also, by the way, it's my soon to be 3-year-old's birthday tomorrow. So
woohoo!
We're blowing out the Good Dinosaur
Yeah.
birthday for that. She's one of the few kids that likes that movie.
Like, wait a minute, what movie?
It's a Pixar movie.
I know. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, most people are like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah,
That
it's
movie?
like
I don't even remember that movie.
one of the least I think the worst reviewed Pixar movie is either like that Planes movie, which is like a spinoff of Cars, or Cars 2, which is terrible. Those are worse, but like Good Dinosaur's poorly reviewed in that, like, on Rotten Tomatoes it's only got like a 72%, which is like Pixar movies are like automatically always like 98%. So
Yeah.
it's one of the bad ones, one of the forgotten ones. It is fairly annoying, I will say, and a bit terrifying. It's definitely terrifying for a 3-year-old, but she still likes it. I don't know why. Like, she gets very scared watching it, and there's a lot of fast forward, and of course the dad dies at the start, and
of course,
because it's a Disney.
It's
property,
a Pixar movie, so there's got to be dead fathers.
There's dead fathers everywhere. But yeah, so we're celebrating that dead father, terrifying dinosaur movie tomorrow.
Woohoo!
So that'll be fun.
Good work.
But yeah, more football coming this weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know why I say like. Like, we don't have a Facebook page. Don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can like our Cougs Center Facebook page, and then like you'll see 1 out of every 14 posts we do based on the Facebook algorithm. So have fun with that. But
good luck.
You can follow Jeff on Twitter at Pod versus Everyone. That is technically our podcast account.
Yeah, I kind of took that over.
And then you can follow me at the Craig Powers. You can subscribe to us. You can rate us 5 stars on your service of choice, particularly on iTunes, because that's what most people use. But a lot more people are using Spotify. We're on Spotify. We're on Stitcher. We're on everything. It doesn't matter. I don't even know one that we're not on. I don't know. I get all the emails about the things we're on, and that was mostly Jeff's doing. So it was actually 100% Jeff's doing. Not mostly, 100%. I did none of that.
My fault.
Jeff is the podcast host / producer. I just get on here and rant and babble. I don't do anything else.
It's all right.
He also writes up the posts on Cougs Center, so I do the least minimum effort for me. So give Jeff 5 stars if anything. Come on.
I know. I spent part of this podcast preparing so that I wouldn't have to stay up very late tonight finishing it up. So
nice work.
I kind of did like all the groundwork that I need to do. Now I just
you knew what we were going to talk about. We're predictable.
I gotta mix. I gotta mix it though because we had a little recording snafu in the middle. So
yeah, see if you can find where it was.
That's all right. They will not know. It'll be seamless.
It'll be seamless.
Yeah. Should we give a prize to anybody who can figure it out?
You'll have our respect. You'll have the
we'll give
respect.
You a shout out on the podcast. If you can
we'll give you a shout.
Out.
Yeah, we will. If you email us, tell us where you think it was. If you get it right, at podcast vs everyone @gmail.com. If you figure out where the audio screw up was, I'll mention you on the podcast. I'll say within reason what you want me to say. One sentence. One sentence. That's it. Just one sentence. And nothing mean You can have F words in there, of course. I say those happily. No political crap. That's only for us to say.
Yeah.
Unless I like your political thing. That'll be fine. Whatever.
All right, Craig, go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.